Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam said, "You have to dream before your dreams come true." So, hello everyone. This is Nitin Saxena, your coach for verbal ability and soft skills, and I'm back with the session, which is a continuation of the previous video on parajumbles. So, we'll be discussing the leftover concepts of the parajumbles, and I would be giving you certain tips and tricks in order to solve the questions easily and get the answers very quickly, right? All right. So we discussed two concepts on that day. We discussed about identifying the parajumbles, and there were we discussed two concepts on that day, and those two concepts were about identifying the mandatory pair to solve a parajumble question. So there were two kinds of mandatory pairs that we discussed in our previous video. So those mandatory pairs were, first was noun, which should be followed by a pronoun, and pronoun we discussed the first mandatory pair as full name, which should be followed by a proper noun, and proper noun which should be followed by a pronoun, right? So it is just a quick recap. If we have a full name in a parajumble, we have the proper noun. Proper noun means either the first name or the last name, and we also have a pronoun for that noun. So in that case, the order would be the sentence with the full name will come first, then followed by sentence with either the first name or the last name of the person, and then followed by the sentence with the pronoun being used for that person itself. The next mandatory pair that we discussed on that day was the cause and effect relationship. I told you and I gave you a few keywords through which you can identify whether the sentence is talking about a cause or the sentence is talking about an effect. So you know that the cause is always followed by effect. That means effect always follows the cause. So the cause should come first in the discussion or in the paragraph, followed by the effect. But sometimes the structuring is such that the effect comes first and then it is followed by the causes for that effect. All right. So today we'll be discussing about a few more mandatory pairs. Uh, so there are a few more mandatory pairs which are as follows. The first one is understand chronologically, or we call it as time reference. So these two concepts are interrelated to each other. We need to understand what does this word chronologically means. Chronologically means there is a logical chain of events which is based upon some timeline, right? So when there is a logical chain or a logical sequence of events based upon any timeline, so then that is how we understand chronologically, or we can call it as time reference also. Time reference when we are referring to any kind of tense in the parajumble, right? So let us understand this first one. First of all, I talked about the logical sequence or the logical chain of events in the form of a timeline. Now how that timeline can be, that timeline can be in the form of hours, right? That timeline can be in the form of years, or that timeline can also be in the form of months. So these are the three things which we actually are aware of. So it can be in the form of hours, it can be in the form of years, or it can be in the form of months. So, and it always has to be in the ascending order, not in the descending order, right? Next, and in while talking about understanding chronologically, this timeline can also be constructed using the transition words. Now, the transition words in English are those words which are used to connect one idea to the next idea. So, whenever we are actually connecting the first idea to the next idea, there are a certain words that we make usage of. So, those words are known as transition words. We'll be talking about these transition words in detail in the upcoming slides. Now talking about the time reference. So time reference, as I told you, we have sometimes questions based upon tenses. Now this refers to a point in time, past, present or future. So if you have like a question which is based upon tenses. That means some event has been given in the past, some event in the present, and some event of the future has been mentioned in the parajumble. Then in that case, you will always follow this order. Past tense will come first, followed by present tense, and then followed by future tense. All right, let us have a look at the questions or certain examples to understand it more better. Now, the first example says sentence number A is, in order to take full advantage of the ongoing city sale, you must possess a good credit card. Now, sentence number B, it says it would also be nice to have friends to accompany you. And sentence number C says, secondly, you should have a vehicle of your own. Now here, if we look at this question, we do not need to understand the complete question first of all. We can actually, at the first step, we can just look at certain keywords and identify the places of a few statements. And that would help us to eliminate certain options in our examinations. Now we can see, we have to find out the positions of different sentences. Sentence number A, if we see, so there is no keyword in this sentence. Now sentence number B, if we see, there is a word also out here. Now also means this cannot be the opening statement, this cannot be the beginning statement in the parajumble. That means there has to be something before this, right? So we know that this cannot be put at the first position. Now let us look at sentence number C. Sentence number C, in the beginning itself, it has a word secondly. Now secondly means the sentence should be at the second place in the parajumble. So when the sentence has to be at the second place in the parajumble, then in that case, we have got to know that sentence number C will be put at the second position. There will be some sentence before that, and there will be one sentence after that, right? So in that case, all the options having C at the second position will only be taken into consideration, and rest of the options can be ignored or they can be eliminated, right? Now we can look at these two statements as well. Sentence number B has a keyword also. Now we got to know that there is a word also. This is known as a transition word in English, so this cannot be the opening statement in the parajumble. Then that means this can only come at the place of the third sentence. So we have got two sentences in a parajumble. Second one is sentence number C, and the last sentence would be sentence number B. So we have got one mandatory pair as CB. CB is one of the mandatory pairs. Now we are only left with sentence number A. So that means position of the first sentence was still empty. So sentence number A will be placed at the first position in the parajumble, right? So here I was talking about, like I was telling you about the cause and effect relationship. I said that sometimes the structuring of a paragraph is such that the effect comes first and the causes comes later on. Now here you can see that we have one phrase, in order to. So in order to is always the effect. That means to get something what we need to do, and these will be the alternative steps which we'll take to get this. So in order to take full advantage of the ongoing city sale, so if we have to get the advantage of the ongoing city sale, then what should we have? So what should be the causes for taking the advantage? So those are mentioned in one cause is mentioned here after comma, the second cause is mentioned here, and one more cause is mentioned here. So we have got the correct sequence as A, C, B. That is our answer. Now I hope you all have understood this question. Let us take one more example which is based on time reference. Now we have sentence number A as, in the future perhaps we may live on Mars. Now sentence number B says, during the Stone Age man lived in caves. And sentence number C says, presently man lives in concrete jungles. So even if we do not understand the complete parajumble, we have just got three important words here which I have actually highlighted here. So in the first sentence we have the word future, then in the second sentence we have the word Stone Age, and in the third sentence we have the word presently. So we know that the order should be past followed by present followed by future. So we have Stone Age, which is representing past. So this should be the first sentence. Then it should be followed by present. So presently word tells us about the present tense. That means this should be at the second position, and then it should be followed by the future tense, which we have in sentence number A. So the correct sequence here should be B, C, A. That should be our answer. I hope this trick is going to help you out a lot, and you will not waste time reading the parajumble question again and again, and uh, even then not getting the correct answer. Moving to the next technique, which says look for the transition or keywords. So in one of the previous the previous tricks we were talking about the transition words, and I told you that I would be actually having those examples out here in one of the slides. So here we have the examples for the transitions or keywords. Now, as I told you, the transition words are those words in English which are used to connect one idea to the next idea. So whenever we have any such words between two ideas, so those words are known as transition words. And if these words won't be there in the sentences, then there wouldn't be any connectivity between the first idea and the next idea. And generally, these words are found in the beginning of the second sentence, right? And you also have to remember one more thing, that the sentences with these transition words in the parajumble usually are not the opening statements. They are not going to be the opening statements. They can come in between of the parajumble, or they can be the concluding statements, but not the beginning statements. Now let us have a look at those words. We have a list of those words here. The words are also, which we actually saw in one of the previous questions. We have again the word, we have another word, that is again. Then the next word is as well as, besides, furthermore, in addition, likewise, moreover, similarly, consequently, hence, otherwise, subsequently, therefore, thus, generally, for example, for instance, above all, but, however, yet, and rather. So these are the general ones which you actually find in your questions most of the times, right? So as you can see that these words cannot represent the opening statement in the parajumble. None of these words can actually represent the opening statement in the parajumble. So the sentences having these transition words will not ever come at the first place. But you can see that there are certain words like therefore, thus, however, above all, so they can actually represent the concluding statement, right? On the basis of something, you are concluding something. So they can be at the place of the last sentence in the parajumble. Let us have a look at the question. The question says, sentence number A is, yet the cable guys control 2/3 of the market. Sentence number B, it says telephone firms are now cutting down their prices to compete and grab their share of the internet market. Sentence number C, it says cable net connections are expensive. And sentence number D says this is because there is a growing demand for high speed internet access. Now, let us quickly identify a few keywords out here in these sentences. Now, sentence number A, we have one of the transition words as yet, right? So we know that usually the sentences with the transition words are not the opening statement. So this will not be the opening statement in the parajumble yet, right? And yet is usually used to show the contrast, right? Something is there, uh, but the scenario is little different, right? Then let us look at sentence number B. Sentence number B have the nouns telephone firms. So this can be the subject in sentence number B. Now what are these telephone firms doing? Cutting down their prices. So this is another key information in sentence number B. Now sentence number C has one word cable. Now this is a noun. Cable is the subject in this sentence. Now what about cable net connections? They're expensive. So expensive is also a keyword in sentence number C. Coming to sentence number D. Sentence number D, we have one word because here. Now, because tells us about the cause or the reason. When we were talking about the cause and effect relationship, so we studied that there is a word because which represents the cause or the reason behind something. That means this is a reason behind something and there has to be something before this. Now, this is because this is a pronoun here. Now this pronoun must be representing some noun. So we have to actually find out some noun which is actually representing the subject and should actually come immediately before this statement. Now another key information in the sentence is demand for high speed, right? So demand for high speed internet access. So demand for high speed is another key information. Now let us try to find out the mandatory pairs here. We know that this cannot be the opening statement. We know that this cannot be the opening statement. So sentence either sentence number B or sentence number C can be the opening statements. Now still it is difficult for us to decide like which sentence should be put at the first place. Let us actually first of all identify those compulsory pairs here. We see here that yet the cable guys control two-thirds of the market. So it is talking about cable guys controlling a major portion of the market. So something in contrast to this should be there, which should actually be preceded or which should actually come before this statement. So if we look at these statements, it says telephone firms are now cutting down their prices to compete and grab their share of the internet market. So here the subject is changing. Here they were talking about cable guys and here they are talking about telephone firms. So there is no connectivity between these two sentences. We have to look for another statement which has the same subject, and we can see that sentence number C has the same subject. Cable net connections are expensive. So we are saying that cable net connections are expensive, but even then the cable guys control two-thirds of the market. So we have got one of the mandatory pairs as CA, right? Now here we had a pronoun this. We have to look for something which is actually representing this pronoun or which is the antecedent for this pronoun. Now let us look at different sentences which can actually come before this or which can actually form mandatory pair with sentence number D. It is talking about this is because there is a growing demand for high speed internet access. So now why like this is happening? Because there is a growing demand for high speed internet access. Now what is happening? If we look at sentence number B, it says telephone firms are now cutting down their prices to compete and grab their share of the internet market. Now, this cannot be the reason for this, right? This cannot exactly be the reason for this because this is a new subject and we have to establish, if we assume that we have BD as one of the mandatory pairs. So then if we put it in the sequence, so it will be cable net connections are expensive, yet the cable guys control two-thirds of the market. Telephone firms are now cutting down their prices. So there is no connectivity between these two statements. We have to check for the connectivity of this statement with one more statement to form the mandatory pair. So this statement doesn't have any connectivity with sentence number B. Now if we look at sentence number D, which we are left with, it says this is because there is a growing demand for high speed internet access. Now we have talked about cable net connections being expensive. Further we say that even then the cable guys control a major portion, that means two-thirds of the market. Now why this is happening? Because there is a growing demand for high speed internet access. That means cable net connections are providing high speed internet access, right? So we can have AD also as one of the mandatory pairs. So we have got two mandatory pairs here now. First is CA and another one is AD. So we have got the sequence as CAD. Now we are left with only option number, sorry, sentence number B. So that means sentence number B can be placed at the last position. Now let us have a look at the correct answer. Here's, we have the correct answer as CADB, which I was telling you about, right? I hope you have understood this question well, and such kind of questions you actually find in your exams, which might confuse you at times, but you have to check the logical sequence. uh, you may take the screenshot of this example out here. All right, moving to the next concept. The next concept says look for short forms and abbreviations. So now whenever we have any short forms or any abbreviations in our questions, we have to see that the sentence with the short form or abbreviation should not come before the sentence with the full form of that abbreviation. The sentence with the full form should come first in the sequence, followed by sentence with the short form or any abbreviation for it, because we never introduce any subject with its short form. We always introduce the subject with its full form, and then further we can use any short form or any abbreviation for it. Like I told you about the person's names, I told you about full names and proper nouns. So I said that if we have like the full name of the persons, and we also have either the first name or the last name of the person. So we never actually introduce a person with his just first name or with his just last name. If we have the full name, we always introduce that person with his or her full name, and then we can either use the first name or the last name to refer to that person. So similar is the case here. If we have the full form of any of the abbreviations, for example, we have United Nations Organization and we have the abbreviation UNO. So the sentence having the full form United Nations Organization should come first, and then it should be followed by the sentence having its short form or abbreviated form, that is UNO. Okay, so I guess that we do not need an example here to like explain. This in itself is very much clear. Let us quickly go to the next concept. The next concept says ideas follow examples and general follows specific. Now, when we talk about ideas follow examples and general follows is specific, this is the standard rule of SWE. SWE stands for Standard Written English. So whenever we are writing down something in English, or whenever we are expressing something in English, we have to remember that idea should come first, then it should be followed by the example. And the example solves the purpose of supporting the main idea. So the main idea followed by its example. We never mention the example first and then express the idea behind it. And similarly, like we have general to specific. If we have a general information and we also have a specific information, so we always like mention the general information first, followed by the specific information. We never start with the specific information and then go to the general information. That order would be wrong. The correct order should be the general information first, followed by the specific information. So this is actually the correct sequence. Ideas, they follow examples, and general, it follows specific. Okay, so let us take one example here. One small example is sentence number A. Language is a roadmap of a culture. And sentence number B says, a study of English language reveals a dramatic history and astonishing versatility. Now, if we compare the previous two concepts with these two statements, let us first of all talk about idea follows examples. So, ideas follow examples. So, if we compare these two statements, this statement is talking about language, that is the key word here, and this statement is talking about English language, right? So, this statement is the main idea. Language is a roadmap of a culture, and here we have taken the example of English language to support the first main idea. That is, a study of English language reveals a dramatic history and astonishing versatility. Next, if we compare with the other thing, that is general to specific, if we look at both these statements and the same keywords are there, language and English language. So this is a general information compared to this one, because here we are talking about language and here we are being more specific, we are talking about English language. So we have like the general idea at the first place, and then it should be followed by the specific idea at the second place. Now here this sentence would come at the first place. Language is a roadmap of culture, and according to the same logic, sentence number B should come at the next position. That is, a study of English language reveals a dramatic history and astonishing versatility. And try to solve it. The question says, sentence number A, he made an interesting comment about our store's price policy. Sentence number B, it says discounts could vary from 10 to 15% on every purchase. Sentence number C, it says the lesser the quantity, the more frequently customers will have to visit the store. The more frequent the visits, the more incentives they can earn. And sentence number D says he said that we could offer discount and incentive to encourage people to buy in fewer quantities but to buy more frequently. Now, out of these four statements, we have to check which statements are general in nature and which statements are specific in nature. Now, let us start from sentence number A. Sentence number A says he made an interesting comment about our store's price policy. So, when it is saying that he made an interesting comment, now what comment was made? That has not been mentioned, right? So that means here this is not a specific statement. The sentence having like what was the interesting comment about that store's price policy will have to be the specific statement. So this is a general statement. Now talking about second sentence. The second sentence says discounts could vary from 10 to 15% on every purchase. So discounts could vary from 10 to 15%. The figure of discounts has been mentioned specifically, that where will it vary from, or what would the range be? 10 to 15%. That means here we are talking about discounts specifically. So this is a specific statement. So sentence number A, a general statement. Sentence number B, a specific statement. Now let us have a look at sentence number C and D. C says the lesser the quantity, the more frequently customers will have to visit the store. The more frequent the visits, the more incentives they can earn. Again, this sentence is actually containing information which is specific in nature. They are specifying if the quantity is less, the visits will be more frequent, and the if the visits will be more frequent, the incentives will be more which the customers can earn, right? So they are actually defining something out here in this sentence. That means this is a specific statement, right? Now let us have a look at one more statement. It says sentence number D, he said that we could offer discount and incentive to encourage people to buy in fewer quantities but to buy more frequently. Okay, uh, let us actually identify the general and the specific statements in this question. So sentence number A says he made an interesting comment about a store's price policy. This is a general statement, as it has not been mentioned here what interesting comment was made. So the sentence expressing what interesting comment about the store's price policy was made has to be the specific statement in comparison to this. So let us have a look at these sentences. Uh, if we have a look at these sentences, this is talking about discounts. This has nothing to do with this one. Then it is talking about the lesser the quantity, the more frequently customers will have to visit the store. The more frequent the visits, the more incentives they can earn. Again, it is not directly connected with this. If we look at sentence number D, he said that we could offer discount and incentive to encourage people to buy in fewer quantities but to buy more frequently. Now we have one more thing to notice here. The sentence starting with the pronoun he, and this sentence is also starting with the pronoun he. He made an interesting comment. Now, what did he say further? That has been specified here, that we could offer discount and incentive to encourage people to buy in fewer quantities but to buy more frequently. So if we compare sentence number D with sentence number A, so this is a general statement and this is a specific statement, and we can have this mandatory pair. AD can be one of the mandatory pairs. Now let us have a look at the other statements. Uh, Here it was talking about offering discounts and incentives, and it said that it is actually to encourage people to buy in fewer quantities but to buy more frequently. So people should buy in less quantities, but they should visit the store frequently. Now let us see if this idea is being expressed somewhere, and we can see that this idea is being expressed in sentence number C. It says that the lesser the quantity, the more frequently customers will have to visit the store. So this is an explanation or an extension to the same. Right? The lesser the quantity, the more frequently customers will have to visit the store, and the more frequent the visits, the more incentives they can earn. So it has talked about this aspect of this, right? So we get one more mandatory pair as DC. The first mandatory pair was AD, the second mandatory pair is DC. So ADC, we have got the sequence. Now we are left with only option number B, sentence number B. So sentence number B, discounts could vary from 10 to 15% on every purchase. Now this is also a general statement if we compare with a sentence number C. Sorry, this is also a specific statement if we compare with sentence number C, right? So now this has to be at the last position, because the position of sentence number 1, sentence number 2 and sentence number 3 has already been fixed. It has been decided, as we have got the mandatory pairs. We are left with only mean. Now it can only come at the closing position. And we could see one more thing out here. Here it was talking about discount and incentives. So incentives has been explained in sentence number C, but still discount wasn't explained. So discount is actually explained in sentence number B, right? So sentence number B will be the closing statement. Let us have a look at the correct answer. The correct answer is A, D, C, B. Hope you have understood this question. Now you may take the screenshot of this example as well. Okay. Moving to the next strategy of identifying the mandatory pair, or next strategy of solving the parajumble question, it is finding the obvious openers, right? Sometimes there are sentences by reading which we get to know that they will only be the opening statement and there cannot be any other statement which can come at the opening position, right? So if we get the position, if we get those sentences which should come at the first position, so that means the position of one sentence has been fixed. And in the options, if we'll check, any options having that particular statement as the opening statement will only have to be considered, and rest of the options can be eliminated. Now, let us see how to identify obvious openers. These obvious opening sentences can be in the form of definitions of something. So, if we have any keyword in the parajumble and the definition of that keyword, that concept has been given in any of the sentences, or the explanation of that keyword has been given in any of the sentences, that what is it? So, then that sentence can be the opening statement. The next way to identify obvious openers is universal truths. Now, obvious openers can also be in the form of universal truths. If, like, any sentence is talking about any universal truth or any scientific truth, so that should actually fall at the place of the opening statement in the parajumble. And there is one more thing. which we can check is philosophical statements. So if there are any philosophical statements in the parajumble question, so those sentences can be considered at the first position. So then we got to know that there are three different ways of identifying the obvious openers, that is definitions, universal truths, and philosophical statements. Let us try to solve one question here to have more clarity on this. The question says, sentence number A, it is the upper portion of the atmosphere, a nearly isothermal layer of constant temperature that is located above the troposphere. Sentence number B, it says stratosphere is one of the layers of the atmosphere. And sentence number C says it extends from its lower boundary of about 6 to 17 kilometers, that is 4 to 11 miles altitude, to its upper boundary, the stratopause. That means the upper boundary is known as the stratopause, at about 50 kilometers, that is 30 miles. Right? So let us try to identify certain keywords here. In the first statement, we have a pronoun it. So we can actually underline, or we can actually take it as a keyword. In sentence number B, we have a noun stratosphere. So this is a noun, this is the subject here. Now sentence number C, again it is starting with the pronoun it, and the keywords can be it extends. So what extends? So we know that if we have a noun as well as a pronoun in a parajumble question, so then definitely in that case, the sentence with the pronoun, or the sentence starting with the pronoun, will not be the opening statement, right? The sentence with the noun has to be at the opening place, because we always introduce a subject with its name if we have it. Right. So here, two of the statements are starting with the pronouns. So that means A and C cannot come at the opening position. Only sentence number B can come at the opening position. Right. Because it is talking about a noun, stratosphere. Right. Now it is also explaining stratosphere is one of the layers of the atmosphere. Now what is stratosphere? The definition. It is one of the layers of the atmosphere. Right. So according to the concept of obvious openers, we got to know that sentence number B can be identified as the obvious opening statement, and none other statement out of the three can be at the opening place. Right. Now here it was talking about it is the upper portion of the atmosphere, and here it is talking about it extends from its lower boundary. Now first of all, we have to check that where the explanation of stratosphere is given. Here it was saying it is one of the layers of the atmosphere. So when we are saying that it is one of the layers of the atmosphere, which layer it is? So here it is being explained it is the upper portion of the atmosphere, a nearly isothermal layer, a layer of constant temperature that is located above the troposphere. So now this is sentence number A is an explanation of this. Which layer? The topmost layer, or the uppermost layer, right? So we have got one mandatory pair as BA, right? Further it was talking about it extends from its lower boundary. Now it here again refers to stratosphere itself. So we have got one mandatory pair as BA. So sentence number C in that case has to be at the closing position. It cannot be anywhere between B and A, right? So sentence number C will be at the closing position, which is talking about the area of this layer. Like it extends from its lower boundary of about 6 to 17 kilometers altitude to its upper boundary at about 50 kilometers, right? So let us have a look at the answer. The correct answer is, as I told you, BAC. Hope this question was easy. Now, moving to the next concept, the next concept says obvious conclusions. Like there are obvious openers, there are also the obvious conclusions. By reading a few statements, we can get to know, or we can very easily understand that they have to come at the closing position only, and they cannot come at any other place in the parajumble, right? So when the sentence has one of the conclusive words in it. Now, those sentences are actually known as obvious conclusions. Now, what are those conclusive words? The conclusive words like clearly, thus, therefore, eventually, finally, consequently, hence, etc. And there are so many more such words which actually indicate that these are the concluding statements, right? Let us do one of the questions as an example to understand it better. The question says, on the mantelpiece were two clocks, some dogs, brass candlesticks, and a tinted photograph of Annie. Right? It's talking about some area, a mantelpiece. What was kept? The two clocks were kept, some dogs, brass candlesticks, and a tinted photograph of Annie was kept there. Right? Now, where was this mantelpiece? That hasn't been defined yet. That means this cannot be the opening statement. And this right for now we haven't been able to identify whether this sentence can be the concluding statement or not, because there are no like such keywords which actually indicate like the conclusion, or we can call them as the conclusive words. Sentence number B: you looked at the weed grown vegetable garden through a stuffed fox's legs, over a partridge's head, along the red paint stained breast of a stiff wild duck. Sentence number C. It says the best room smelt of mothballs and fur and damp and dead plants and stale, sour air. Two glass cases on wooden coffin boxes lined the window wall. And sentence number D says it was obvious that the room was rarely used. So if we try finding out certain keywords in these four sentences, so sentence number C, we have the keywords the best room. There is a noun, the best room they are talking about, right? Now, as I told you, in sentence number A and sentence number B, they are being talked in connection to something, but where were these? That hasn't been explained here. So they will not be the opening statement. There will have to be something which is expressing where these things were, right? So sentence number C is talking about the best room, and we have the definite article here followed by the noun room. So the room had all these things. So we got to know that this can be one of the opening statements, right? Now let us look at the concluding statement. We have sentence number D, which is written as it was obvious that the room was rarely used. So it was obvious because of something. On the basis of something we are concluding that it was obvious, or we if we said obviously it was like this, right? So on the basis of something we are saying or we are concluding some other thing. So this clearly we can identify can be the closing statement or the concluding statement in the parajumble. So we got two statements, the opening statement as this, and we got closing statement as this. So all the options having sentence number C as the opening statement and sentence number D as the closing statements will only have to be considered, and rest of the statements can be ignored, right? Now let us see after this what should come. The best room smelt of mothballs and fur and damp and dead plants and stale sour air. Two glass cases on wooden coffin boxes lined the window wall, right? So if we look at this, so this can be followed by A, right? So we have answer as CABD. So sentence number C can be followed by sentence number A, because it is talking about on the mantelpiece were two clocks, some dogs, brass candlesticks, and a tinted photograph of Annie. Because here it was talking about wooden coffin boxes lined the window wall, right? Two glass cases on wooden coffin boxes lined the window wall, and then further it is talking about the mantelpiece. So what was kept on those mantelpiece? So all these things were kept. So CA can be one of the mandatory pairs. Now Further, it is talking about you looked at the weed grown vegetable garden through a stuffed fox's legs, over a partridge's head, along the red paint stained breast of a stiff wild duck. Right. So we already have the positions of the first, second, and the last statement fixed. We are left with only option number B or sentence number B. So that has to fall at the third position in that case. So we will have our correct answer as CABD. Hope this concept is also clear to you. Alright, so these were a few important tips and tricks to solve the parajumble questions and not wasting a lot of time on them, and also to save some time to attempt rest of the questions on different other areas. And this will actually help you a lot in scoring well and getting into the merit in any of the competitive examinations or in any of the placement drives of yours. And now you would have understood why I was saying that parajumbles is one of the scoring areas in English, even if you do not know correct English grammar, and even if you are not good at reading comprehension passages or some other areas like that, right? Okay. So keep learning, keep enjoying, and all the best till then. We'll see you in the next video on the next interesting topic. Thank you.